Hello and welcome. Well, it's not every day that you get to speak to not one, but two dynamic women who are inspirational to many of us. Now, both are mothers with two children and former policewomen. These two super talented twin sisters have demonstrated to all Aussie mums how following your heart and true passion can and does pay off. Now, you may remember them from winning the block in 2013 and returned for the block Fans versus Faves in 2014. Now, since then, they have continued their success as accomplished interior designers and now have launched and expanded their personal care brand al.ive. Now, I'm really excited to welcome our two special guests. This is the first time we've had two guests in one interview and in one podcast. Our two special guests, Lysandra and Alisa Fraser. How are you both? Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having us, and thanks for the intro.
Now, your story is really quite inspirational, how you originally transitioned from the police force to interior design and have clearly excelled at that. And of course, in the last 12 months, having launched your own personal body care range, al.ive. Is that the correct way of pronouncing the brand, al.ive?
It's al.ive body.
al.ive body. Okay. So the personal body care range, al.ive body. Now, it seems you've both really mastered, your own fates, but neither of those pivots are simple or without any challenges, which you have clearly mastered, both. So I'd just love to know, for you guys, how do you look back retrospectively at all your accomplishments to date?
It's easy to kind of forget about that, and then you'll have a moment every now and then where you actually kind of do take time to reflect, and that's, I think, when it hits you, because this is our day-to-day life. It feels so normal to us, but then I guess a police car will drive past, or you'll be like, oh my gosh, remember the days when we used to be out on the beat and go to these kind of jobs, and then like to do what we're doing now, it kind of sometimes it does still feel like a bit of a dream. Surreal. Like that introduction that you gave, if I was listening to this podcast, I'd have butterflies, be like, that's amazing, good on you girls. But like when you're doing it, you don't actually think what you've achieved is that great.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah. And now talking specifically to a mum or a dad listening to this or watching this who, like you, had a passion and a true calling for something bigger and other than the job that they're working in, like you just explained what you were working in. Yeah. But in their circumstance, maybe perhaps they're just hesitant to maybe give it a shot and just take that leap forward. Can you maybe just talk us through how you guys actually made that decision to have a go despite all the odds?
I mean, we're not going to lie and say that we didn't we had a slight advantage, obviously, coming off of the block. We'd won a little bit of money. A massive advantage. But we had a massive. Well, we got given a platform, and it's what we did with that platform, I guess. So, yeah, we did certainly have that advantage where we came off winning money from the block. We got asked back to do the second block, and it was kind of, we had money to almost, I guess, back ourselves to a certain extent and take that leap of faith. Like in the real life, if it wasn't for the block and we thought, oh, let's try interior design, we wouldn't have had getting customers would have been, or clients would have been a lot harder, taking the chance that it's going to work out and not having an income. Having said that, though, there have been hundreds of people that have been on the block before, and, it doesn't mean just because you haven't been on the block or you don't have, some extra money sitting there, that you can't do that. We certainly don't want to think like, put it out there to people that if you haven't been on the block and you haven't won money, then you can't do this.
Yeah, but taking
hard work and determination.
But if we take a step back, how was that transition from leaving the police force to wanting to go onto the block and actually then sort of make that transition and that pivot into interior design? Can you maybe talk us through that, like before we moved
that
you
was
guys?
Very organic. And I think this is what happens a lot of the time is people fall into these passions. They don't, when you leave school, you don't know what you want to do. We apply because we loved the show. We thought we would go on, hopefully win some money and return back to our normal day jobs and our normal lives. Like that was our intention. We had no idea that we had this passion for interior design. We fell into it. And I think when you have that realization that, hey, there is something for me that I'm not currently doing, that sparks this fire inside of my belly, then that's when you have to take that moment and decide how you're going to move forward.
So saying that, what tips and maybe words of advice do you have for any parent listening in a similar situation with a great idea, if it's either for a business and or in any capacity, and aspire to launch their own business and move forward, and to make that pivot? Do you have any words of advice or anything that you want to share maybe?
I think it's about, especially if you don't have a lot of money to invest, about starting out small. Don't try and aim for the stars straight away. Say if you've got that little bit of money, invest into a prototype and then put it out there. Talk to your friends. Is this something you think you would like? Do some market research, actually see whether it is going to be a viable business. All of that kind of stuff doesn't really cost a lot of money. No. Make sure that if you are going to pivot, that what you're pivoting to is going to be viable for you guys, and that it's not just something that you think's really good but nobody else thinks. Don't leave your job and put all your eggs in one basket. And I think we're very fortunate enough these days is to be able to juggle both while you're launching a business or you're getting your feet off the ground. You can have your full-time job, you can go home. We still do our butts off. We would get home, we'd do our mum stuff, the kids would be in bed. From 7 o'clock until 2 o'clock in the morning, we would be up just working. And that was probably for 4 to 5 years after we finished the block. We would be up every night till 2 a.m., like back and forth, emails. Like it was literally, it was the grind. But if you want something that badly, then you'll make it happen. Yeah, and which is why I think a lot of people, they might do it for 1 or 2 months and then they give up. It's not meant to be. It wasn't your passion. You didn't want it bad enough.
Yeah. And look, taking into consideration that this was doubly as hard for you both, because you both had to make a decision, like for you and your families. And it wasn't just one of you making a decision in isolation as well. So I just wanted to mention that for everyone sort of watching and listening as well, that it was... Having said
that, though, we also have that advantage of having each other.
Yes, as well.
You know what I mean? That a lot of people probably don't. So you kind of have to look at that in both ways, I think.
So, I mean, looking at this, launching not one but two businesses can be extremely tough. Now, your second business was launched during 2020 during COVID. So do you have any advice for anyone, once again, for parents about starting businesses during, I guess, these especially economic volatile times? Is it just the fact that you just have to be, I mean, as you said earlier, you don't just go ahead and leave your job. You need to be able to hustle and do the two, and to be able to build your business and jump into that once it's actually economically viable. I don't know. Do you have any other tips and advice? Because your second business was actually launched, was it March 2020?
The actual week that most of Australia went into lockdown. The week of. If you ever launch anything in the middle of COVID, then hand wash is probably like, did you plan that? It's like it took 2 years of planning. I don't think we could have ever predicted this.
No, not at all. So is it about finding a product or service that people need and have a true need for, that is, I guess, part of the essence?
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's the thing. You just have to find something that people love. And we didn't just pull this out of thin air. It was something that we identified in the market that we finished we finished designing our Albert Park project, and we came to styling the bathrooms, and we traipsed around Melbourne trying to find some hand soap to style for photography. And we couldn't find any. Well, we couldn't find anything that hadn't been like seen in every single magazine, that was unique, that offered different colors for different color palettes. And that's where the gap was. So we didn't reinvent the wheel. There's plenty of hand soap and lotion out there, but no one's done it the way that we've done it. So I think that that's probably a good takeaway for anybody listening, is that there are plenty of things out there that have been done a million times. You just need to do it better or find a different way to do it.
Yeah, or something that people have a need for, which you seem to always do. I guess, like, you're known for creating the wow factor on a budget, which is something that many families are always interested in doing. But I guess this information and this advice doesn't have to be about starting a business per se. It can also be practical advice for anyone starting or wanting that's maybe procrastinating about making any decision in their life as well. It's about sort of having that support network around you and making the right decisions. But now looking, it's about 8 or 9 years on since the block, is it now? Time, we're looking at the timeline.
Yeah.
So do you find that once you've stepped outside your comfort zone and you've taken that initial risk, that it's much like strengthening a muscle? The more you exercise risk taking, the stronger and more resilient you actually get. Have you found that?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And like everything that we've jumped into hasn't always been a success. There's certainly been lots of failures along the way. But I guess those failures have been a massive learning curve for us, and I don't think we would be where we are now if we hadn't failed in a lot of things. So I think it's having that ability to be able to get back up
straight away as well.
Yeah.
Like before we started al.ive, you know, we did have some really hard times, and the hard time hit, and I think it was a day where it was like, no.
I remember at the start, like hard times would hit and we'd be like, oh, you know, it would be shit. And then another hard time. And then, you know, they'd constantly happen, but they'd get smaller and smaller, like the time that you gave to that problem. You just learn to pick yourself up and dust off, and almost to a certain point where it would almost come and you'd almost be like, oh, I'm glad that came. Like we haven't felt like that for a while. And it's, you know, that just, they are all lessons, as cliche as it sounds.
I totally understand. Like when I first launched Kittypedia, like if I had a problem, it was like the biggest problem in the world. And now, you know, sort of 4 and a bit years on, I look back and just go, oh my gosh, like you just think to yourself, how and why did I stress about that back then when I've got, you know, problems 10 times bigger than that, but you just become resilient, don't you? So that's,
absolutely. Like I don't dwell over really any hurdle now. Like there can't really be a hurdle that is and something that unless like, you know, we go to war or something.
I mean, and that's just the thing, you know, because launching a business,
then I'm in trouble. But other than that, I reckon anything. That's bleak.
But, you know, but in this instance, you know, for anyone watching and listening, when you do take that initial risk, you are going to feel like your problems are enormous, but just know that the further you dive yourself into it, I find having true purpose is something that really has always got me through. I always anchor down to why and the reason why I started Kittypedia. And that's what sort of gets me up every time I've been knocked down. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but you've got to find something that ensures that it does get you up, because inevitably every time that you start a project or you are going to take a leap, people are always going to get knocked down. It's not always going to be easy, and it's pretty naive for anyone to think that it will be. So
it's never, ever, ever. Every day you're going to run into problems. And I think the biggest takeaway could be is, what am I learning from this?
100%.
Small stuff. Yeah. Like what is this teaching me? And how can we avoid this next time?
But also one thing I think we've become a lot better at is celebrating the small milestones, or the milestones that we do have, instead of it just being, oh yeah, that happened, on to the next. It's actually taking those moments with the whole team and sitting down and going, wow, guys, like we're actually, you know, that thing we've been working on for the last 6 months, well, it just happened and we should celebrate that. Because if you don't take those moments to celebrate, then you're never getting that satisfaction. It's always just, you know, wanting more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like a little pit stop along the way. You need to have those moments, 100%. So, and in saying that, so last year you established a new business, al.ive body, but now you have al.ive baby, and just released new product line aimed at toddler and babies, which features, from my understanding, tell me if this is right, hair and body wash, body lotion, nappy cream, which I do want to speak to you about in just a moment. But I just firstly would really love to know and learn about you both as mums. And as both as busy as you are, running households, being mums, running businesses.
Well, that's right. We've got kids, don't we?
That little thing as well.
We've got 2 businesses, and then we forget about the 2 kids sometimes.
How do you balance family time with your workload?
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge of all.
I think definitely initially it was really hard. And I think probably over the last, only over the last year, I think we've both become quite good at being able to switch off maybe just on the weekend and spending the time with the kids and realising that they are getting older. Like my oldest starts high school next year and my youngest is 9. So it's like seeing those years quickly pass you by, and it's that realisation that if you don't stop and enjoy that, then...
Having said that, our team has grown. We've got a team of 9 now
that we can rely on.
So that's probably a big factor. We didn't have the luxury of being able to do that. And it's taken 8 years to be able to actually now sit back and go, all right, well, if we want a day off, or if we need to go to sports day, or if we need to, you know, go to their school excursion, then we can. Not that we couldn't before, but at the end of the day, having your own business, you have to sacrifice things, and that means time with your kids, time with your husband, time with your friends and family. That's just the reality of it.
So is that, tell me if I'm hearing this right, so what you do to keep your sanity is to find those moments of peace in the madness. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what you're saying?
And I guess, I mean, especially for me, I kind of segment my week into, all right, Monday to Friday is work. Come Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday is all about family. So I guess in a normal environment with 2 full-time parents, that's how it goes. So I think that way I'm dedicating, you know, all the hours that work needs, but then when the kids are at home on the weekends, they get the best of us as well.
So what I dare say, it's that word balance that we all aspire to it's finding that
finding it more, 100% finding it more. If you had asked us 5 years ago, we would have been like, nah, that doesn't exist. Balance is bullshit.
The
women made up that word is just, but definitely unbalanced. But definitely now, I'm feeling the most balanced that I've felt ever, you know, since being on the blog, which is, you know, a really nice feeling.
So, which is something we all aspire to do. Is that just something where you've arrived at now because your businesses have matured? And it's something that anyone, you know, going back to what we were just talking about, that is going to potentially launch themselves into a project or something, understanding to time frame it, to say, okay, you know, within this time frame, I am going to have to make these sacrifices, but it does get easier, and this is part of the ongoing journey, would you say?
Yes, because otherwise people enter these with this false sense of security, and it's not, and that's why so many businesses fail, because people have this preconception of what it's running. And it's not. It's harder than working for anybody in your life.
I'm laughing because I know the truth. I know. I know. The madness.
Because the other business people know like what they're talking about, and that's why you're laughing.
So for anyone watching and listening, it's not easy. It's not going to be easy, but just know that what you're doing, and when you do have true purpose, it does make a difference. You are going to help other people in the end.
And you wouldn't change it. You would not change it for the world.
It's not all bad. It sounds awful, but the flexibility, it's the flexibility, but also like coming into work, I never feel like I work a day in my life. When I was in the police force, I dreaded every shift. Now I'm like bursting out of the door, like, and then I'm looking at the time going, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock, but I don't want it to be 5 o'clock because I've still got stuff to do. I never watch the clock. Except for the fact that it's going too quickly. So there's that aspect of it as well.
And so what kind of mums would you say that you are also? Do you ever get mum guilt?
Oh, every day.
Definitely.
Every day.
That definitely exists.
I think we are, well, we've got 2 boys between us. I think we don't mollycoddle our kids. I wouldn't say tough on them. I think
very laid back. I think we're very laid back parents. You know, we discipline when the need is when they need to be disciplined. We have fun. Type of the parents that go out and kick a footy or hit a tennis ball or you know, play with them. And I think that
I don't think we're crafty parents, that's for sure. Like, to be honest, I can't think of anything worse than sitting down doing craft with my children.
I would have thought that you guys would have been the ultimate craftsman with paints and everything. You're telling me you're not crafty mums at all.
Nah, I hate that stuff. Thank God we didn't have girls though, hey? Yeah.
Did you ever want girls? Because you both got 2 boys each, don't you? Yeah.
Yes, I did cry when I found out I wasn't having a girl. I know, so did I, how sad. And then I was hoping that she would have a girl so that at least I could live through my niece, and then she had another boy, and all right. But then when they came out, you just wouldn't change them for the bloody world. No, they're so beautiful.
Now, I mean, Lysandra, I know that you're separated and you share custody with your ex. I'd just love to know for all of the single parents out there as well. I mean, how do you navigate the 1 week on and off living arrangements with everything that you're doing and all the plates that you're spinning?
Yeah, well, that's 8 years on now. So obviously we're in a group, but initially, it was just so hard. Like the kids are still so young and it was devastating. I used to be on the phone crying to Alisa, you know, every time, you know, they go back to their dads. But obviously they're older now, they're 9 and 11. And the way I guess Alisa and I work a little bit different is the week that I have the kids, so I do Wednesday to Wednesday, I make sure that as soon as I pick them up from school at 3 o'clock, that I'm not on my phone, I'm not on the computer. I literally dedicate, they're never in childcare, after school care, I never get anyone to pick them up. It's always me dropping them off, picking them up, and making sure that that whole week that I have them, that I'm dedicated to them. And then the week that I don't have them, or the week is the week that I can come into the office early, I can stay back into the office later. You know, I don't have to be home at a certain time. So, you know, it balances itself out. But I guess, yeah, for people in those positions, it's just about trying to find that balance of, I feel like if anything, I get more time with my kids on the week that I, you know, because I make up for it. I need to. Yeah.
But it's not always been easy. I mean, what have been some of your hardest parenting moments overall, both of you, I guess? Because I know that you had, Well,
I think me being on, you know, single parent for that week, the hard moments, obviously, lunch, dinner, breakfast, bedtime, doing it all on your own. And because I don't want that help on that week, you know, it's hard. But then I also have to appreciate that week that I don't have them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing all of that stuff. So it's
tip of the cap to you.
You become used to it, you know. It's hard, and I wouldn't wish it, you know, upon anybody, but there are lots of people in this situation, and you just do the best that you can do. And I'm just so fortunate to be in a position that I own my own business and can set my own hours, you know. So I don't ever take
there are some perks. I mean, so what do you find, I guess, for both of you, the challenges with raising tweens? Because Lysandra, your boys are 11 and 9, are they? And Alisa, how old are yours now?
Mine 5 and 9.
Okay, so not quite tweens, but I mean, Lysandra, how are you finding, I guess, that tween stage?
I swear, every time they hit a milestone, you think it's going to get easier, don't you? It's like, oh, they're over their toddlers, like this is easy, and then, you know, suddenly he's 11 and his hormones, like, he's stuck between still wanting to love me and be close to me, but also wanting his independence. So there's this constant headbutting, and it's just constant. And I swear my kids take it in turns. One of them will be amazing one week and the other one will drive me nuts. And then the next week they'll swap. And they take it in turns, and it's just
being mother to boys. And Alisa, how about you as well? What's that balance like for you?
Like when they're not fighting with each other, they're just beautiful with each other. But that's probably like 5% of the time. My kids are so different from one another as well. So different, which is kind of hard as well because they're But
both raising boys, I mean, do you have any advice of what's really worked for both of you at all?
I think the biggest thing that I do with my boys is that I just try to make them feel really comfortable. Like I will go into my eldest and, you know, I'll not try and be the cool mum, but I'll have the conversation with, oh yeah, so who's your girlfriend this week? you know, and I started that from a really young age. Or who do you like? Do you have a crush on anyone? Or I start that conversation with, I've started that very early on. And my youngest will tell me anything about any girl that is, you know, likes. I think having that conversation with them young will keep them open, and it won't be so hard for them when they do go through that stage of finding a partner or liking somebody, to actually be open and honest with me. And
I think that's across the board as well, though, isn't it? Like, not just with girls, it's just about what's going on at school, or just keeping that line of communication open, because I think boys can really...
You go.
And not, you know, always saying to them, and I always say this, like if I ask him something and he seems a little bit sheepish to tell me, I'll say, just tell me. You're not going to get in trouble. This is not me. I would rather you tell me than not. And then also having that ability, if he does say something, not to react or overreact to it, so that then next time they do want to, you know, communicate with you.
Yep. Look, we're very fortunate with the guests that we speak to during these podcasts and everyone that writes for Kittypedia. And my understanding with this is what you've actually done is you've strengthened the neural pathways in their mind, in their brain. So when, as you just said, so when they are of age or anything in their life, they do feel comfortable to come and speak to you about anything, because you've actually strengthened and you've actually helped develop that in their brains. So well done.
And especially as they do get into puberty and things like that, and their bodies are changing. Like we talk about pubic hair and things like that, just so that when he gets it, he's not embarrassed of it, or there's no shame around it, or it's just normal. Do you know what I mean? So
periods, everything's open for discussion. It's like
boobies, I think whatever it is.
Trying to raise boys this day and age not to be afraid of their emotions, or oh my God, that's a tampon, or that girl's got her period, or, you know, it is what it is. If your girlfriend's got her period, make sure you're extra nice to her.
And also being able to, like, I mean, I'd still have a bath with my boys. Do you know what I mean? So just being honest and not being shy about the female body or anything like that as well. And my husband doing the same thing is, I think, the way that we want to raise our boys is so that they do have the ability to have an open conversation with both of their parents.
Well done. Congratulations on that. And I think you've got that true balance of being leaders as parents, but also being their friends as well, which is, I think the whole theme for this whole thing is balance, which I keep on going back to that. But tell us a little bit about the journey about Alive Body Baby, because of course, as we mentioned, you had Alive Body, but now you've actually launched Baby. Can you tell us how that, I guess, expansion on the business came about?
That was a bit of a natural progression, I think, because Alive Body came about from, obviously, the whole idea around our products is that they're not only hand wash and hand lotion, they're a styling item for any room in your home, whether it's bathroom, kitchen, laundry, bedside table. And it was just that natural progression of, okay, how ugly are baby shampoo bottles? Or, I mean, like, seriously, have you been to the supermarket and seen what's on offer? They're ugly. And why? Just because they're babies, should they be ugly?
I think people are so house proud these days, a lot more house proud than what they used to be.
Yeah.
You know, thanks to TV shows like The Block. And I think gone are the days where just putting a stock standard off the shelf, you know, people spend a lot of money on their bathrooms. They want the whole bathroom to look nice.
And as well, I know when we were buying products for our kids, is that to try and find something that was aesthetically pleasing but also had beautiful ingredients. Most of the stuff on the shelves these days is full of crap, and it's just marketed in a way that sounds good. So it was really important for us, like with our main range, is that we didn't have synthetic fragrance, we didn't have synthetic dyes, we didn't have silicons,
no palm oil.
No palm oil. So it was really important that it was not only beautiful, but the ingredients inside were just as clean and healthy for your kids.
And then why do you think it's so important that parents understand what's inside the products that they're putting on their children as well? Why is that so important for parents to know and understand that?
Baby's skin is so delicate, and you want to be, you know, making sure that your kids aren't having reactions because they've got, you know, silicons or parabens in them. And I think gone are the days, like back in our parents' days, and even probably back 8 years ago, if it said natural on the bottle, you would be, oh yeah, it must be good. There are brands out there that sucked us in, and now we look at the back of the ingredients and we're like, ooh, I can't believe we put this on our kids.
The consumer's a lot more educated these days, and you kind of, the basic just doesn't fly anymore. So you really do have to step it up and give people what they want. I mean, who doesn't want natural product for their babies?
Yeah.
And we also proudly plant a tree here right in Australia for every alive body baby and alive body product sold as well. So when we did start our company, we definitely wanted to do good behind it. And we sat down for a long time and we're like, what is that? And we've got such an appreciation for this planet. So it was something that we wanted to give back as well. And to date, we've funded the planting of 40,000 trees and counting. So that's something that we're really proud of as well.
And it's also about the packaging as well. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the functionality of the packaging? So I understand there's some good stuff around that as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our bottles look beautiful, but we've created them so that they sit interlock with each other, but they also sit in a tray, and those trays have rubber legs as well. So when you're bathing your baby and you've got one hand, it's not sliding all over the place, and it's a one pump action as well. So yeah, I mean, there's no point in something looking beautiful if it's not functional as well.
100%. You know, and as we were saying at the start of the chat, it's not uncommon that mums go to find a product or a service to fit their family's needs or whatever the scenario is, and they can't find it, so they go ahead and create it, not just for themselves, but for the greater good, and to be able to give it to other families with the opportunity to benefit. So I have to tip my hat at you, and congratulations for doing that and all your success.
Thank you very much.
And everything that you've done, from a businesswoman to two incredible businesswomen, just really in awe of what you've done and you're doing, and as mums and everything. So just thank you for your time today and everything that we've spoken about. If you were to, I guess, summarize any key messages that you would love for anyone watching and listening from all of the stuff that we've spoken today, we've covered a lot, really. I don't know, like where would you start? Like, what would you like your parting words to be?
Mine would be, nothing comes easy, and you can look on the outside looking in on someone's life and think that they aren't really working that hard to achieve where they've gotten to, or everybody has a perception of everybody else's life, and you cannot get places without working your ass off. And don't have that false conception of everything's just going to fall into place and on your lap, because it's not. Yeah, it's only hard work that's going to get you places.
And mine would probably be that life is really short and you need to do what makes you happy, because if you don't, you're going to get to 60, 70, 80 and look back on your life and think, why didn't I just take that step? Why didn't I just do what I wanted to do? I knew it in my gut, and it's too late. So it's not too late to start, what you love now. I just don't think you should look back with regret. In the sliding doors moment, you could still have been that policewoman in that car, going to work every day. And on the flip side, in the sliding doors moment, look where your life is now and the impact and the change and the inspiration that you're giving to everyone. So congratulations.
And you know what? What's the worst that can happen? What is the worst that can happen?
Yeah,
you lose your house, you go rent. Your kids still get an education in Australia. You're never going to be starving in Australia.
Healthcare is covered,
Medicare. As long as you're happy and healthy, then if that, if that gives somebody the confidence to move forward and chase their dreams, knowing that their life isn't going to end, then go for it.
I totally agree with you, because I think in life, we sometimes, the biggest thing that we fear, we conjure up in our brains all these things that could go wrong. And so we create this monster of a thing, when realistically it's what we're creating in our own minds. It's not, as you just said, what's the worst thing that can happen? So, just give it a shot, be realistic. And understand it isn't going to be easy to time frame, to be able to, have the support of people around you. But everything that you've shared with us today, no doubt, will be able to help people watching and listening through your journey and your success and continued success as we continue to watch you guys grow. So just thank you for everything.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us.
And whereabouts can we find the Alive Body, Baby and Body range? Whereabouts can that be found?
Instagram's probably the best place, or alivebody.com.au. So it's just alivebody, al.ive_body.
Yep. We'll have all those links in the show notes. Right, ladies, thank you so much for your time. Much love.
Thanks.
Take care.
Nice talking to you.
Okay, bye.
See ya.